Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining with us, Hannah. Hannah Olson came to Sama Fertility through CNY Fertility and our partnership here that is enabling bringing at-home ultrasounds to patients' homes. Um, Sama Fertility, Hannah, was founded with the singular mission of improving access for fertility care. And improvement of access comes from three things: making sure that you save time while you go through fertility care, which can be very disruptive, as I'm sure you're aware. Number two is making it more affordable. And number three is taking it to the patient's home, irrespective of where the patient is. So, geography. These are the three things that Sama started the mission with. Um, you know, I'm joined with Jessica Galante. I think you're very well familiar of her because she was your ultrasound expert through the process. Um, Jess and Hannah, I think I just want to talk to you both and understand, from Hannah's perspective, how this worked out, and Jess, if you have anything to add around there. If that sounds okay, let's go for it.
Sounds great.
So, Hannah, I think, my conversation is primarily going to be with you today because we want to understand how your experience was. So, I think if you're able to just tell us a little bit about how you started with the fertility journey so far, if you're comfortable sharing. And if you're not comfortable sharing it, it's totally okay. But what we would want to understand is whether you had experienced fertility care the non at home way before you ended up trying the at home way.
Yeah. So my wife and I started trying about 5 years ago. We had initially started with, I'm going to say local facility. It's about an hour away. Um, and I won't name names, and I will give them the credit that it was the pandemic, but it was a terrible experience. Felt a little bit like getting medical care at a strip mall. Uh, so we didn't continue with them. And then we found CNY through a recommendation for our OBGYN. They're definitely not local, they're in New York. We're up in Maine. So they do travel patients, but you have to find a local clinic to do your remote monitoring, which turned into probably the hardest part of the process. Um, our OBGYN can't do it. We called probably half a dozen places to see if they could, and most of them said no. The ones who did were like, well, we have a long waiting list. And a lot of them were then like, and we can't actually guarantee that you'll be able to get an appointment on the days you need them.
Right.
Uh, so that, didn't work out well. We did eventually go through a cycle with my wife um, with and again, I'm going to say local, it was a 45-minute drive every day. That we needed monitoring. We did go through a cycle with them. It ended up being another experience where we didn't like the facility. They were their bedside manner wasn't great throughout the process. So our next few cycles, we actually just up and moved to New York for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, so that we could do in-person monitoring with CNY at their facility, which was great. They're a great facility to work with, but it's just hugely disruptive to have to go live in New York for 4 weeks. Not to mention it's quite expensive, paying the mortgage on my house plus rent on an Airbnb for a month. Um, so with our most recent cycle, we were looking around. We're like, we got to try calling around. Maybe there's some new facilities. And I saw on CNY's website that Sama Fertility was listed, and I was like, it's probably not gonna work. They're not gonna have anything in the area, but what the heck? Doesn't cost me anything to give them my phone number and schedule an initial consult. Um, and we did that. And I mean, the idea of at-home ultrasounds is wild, uh, but actually worked out great. And the convenience of just emailing over my orders and scheduling on Calendly and just doing it all in my house has been such a relief. Um, I still have to drive about 45 minutes to a lab to get my lab work done, but knowing that I can just get that out of the way and then have my scheduled ultrasound has been such a relief. Absolutely worth every dollar.
Well, do you have no idea how this is, how great this is to hear because this is singularly what our mission is around. And Jess here is an expert who's been working so hard to make sure that that experience that you're talking about just keeps getting better and better. Um, so just to reiterate though that you basically were local-ish during your treatment in Maine, and then you ended up, getting the rest of your care the day of treatment. You ended up going for 1 day to CNY in central New York, and that was that. So, a total departure from what your previous experience has been. So that is amazing. Um, what do you mind telling us what you do for work, if that's okay?
Sure. Yeah. I do have the advantage of working remote. I'm a project manager for a fintech company.
Nice.
Um, so
Oh, yeah.
a lot of
So I mean, you at least had the flexibility to take that off and move yourself. The literal flexibility of not having to go into work every single day even afforded you to do it the first time around. So you can completely imagine if somebody has a job that needs them to go be present physically in every day, it would mean just no care. So that's why I asked as to how you even managed to do that the first time around. Well, I mean, I think, a little bit now about just how let's talk a little bit about how you felt during the process, if that's okay. Because this is, your experience was you said you'd give it a shot, right? So then you reached out, you spoke to Jess, and how did it follow? Was it intimidating? Did you get everything in a box? Did everything work the way it was supposed to? I know I'm throwing a bunch of questions, but I just want to keep it, like generally understand how your experience was.
Yeah. So, from that initial appointment, they went through, or just it was just just went through like you're going to send the box with the equipment. They'll walk you through the whole process. It'll have everything you need. Communicate through email, which I'm a millennial. I love not having to call people. Uh, um, yeah. So it was the just. It's like, yeah, just tell us when everything's going to kick off with your cycle, and we'll get you scheduled. Send me the box. I mean, the
But
box
an
is
ultrasound reached your house in a box and you opened it and you were like, what? Was that like just did you think about it at all or did it just was like, oh, well, this is where the world is now?
right. It's like, well, it's a smaller box than I thought it would be. I mean,
Okay.
there's so much space. You're like, well, how much is to be in this
Oh,
box? But you get the box, you open it, they send an email with all the instructions, and it's
yeah.
it's like any small electronic. You just plug it in, and it's got the light, and it's all good. It walked
That's
me right
awesome.
through everything. Um, Not intimidating at all.
That's phenomenal to hear, Jess. I mean,
I love to hear that. That is
right.
great.
I mean, we are singularly worried about this because the probe is daunting. I mean, so me and my partner Hannah ended up doing this journey at home. So when she was using it, I'll tell you, I mean, we were like, we were very early on, obviously, trying it out ourselves before we did anything about opening this up with a wide group of patients. But we felt like, okay, I hope that we are not so academically driven and scientifically minded that we're the only ones who are going to be okay with something like this. But it sounds like you were not at all worried or intimidated by it, which is great.
Yeah, no, it was
Awesome.
super.
And
I gotta be
so
able to go left, right, up, down.
well, that was going to be my next question, right? Like, so let's quickly walk through how your day of the treatment was. And Jess here is one of our lead ultrasound experts. She would get on a audio call with you, right? I don't think you've met Jess before today, person to person. And you never had to see her, and how did it move? Like, was it easy for you to do that? Or how did it work for you?
Yeah. So like the email instructions are super clear about like how to set up and get ready, and then Jess would call right on the dot for our appointment, and she'd walk me through getting the probe ready and connecting the host app, and then we just go through the exam, and all of the instructions are really clear about how you need to move everything, and um, like honestly, some of the smoothest appointments I've ever had, particularly via telehealth. So
I love that.
I
Thank you.
know.
So
So
happy to hear
everything worked the way it was supposed to, and that's the way that we want every single appointment of ours to go at Sama. I mean, I think this is fantastic, because we just heard that you just finished one of your cycles with us. Did you pack the box back? Was it easy to pack back everything and just have it shipped out? Or would you improve anything around the return process? In fact, would you improve anything around the table? Is there anything that we can do better? Please.
yeah. Um, I'll talk about returns first.
Sure.
Super easy. There's a return label right in the box. There's even a pre-sticky strip on the box itself, so I don't even have to find packing tape. And it's FedEx, so I just drop it off at the local Walgreens, and that makes everything super easy. Um, Everything in the box has its own little slot, so it's not even hard to figure out how things go back in the box. So um, yeah, that's been easier than a Wayfair return. Um,
Easier than a Wayfair return. We might borrow that one, Hannah.
that.
I said it because I've had some terrible experiences with Wayfair returns. Um, yeah, and I really I don't think there's much I can think of for improvement. Yeah, it's been really clear the entire time, even when there's been, I don't even want to call them hiccups, but I think like with my first cycle, I did end up like needing an extra scan, and there was a lot of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to need another one. I gotta wait and follow up, but everything was super easy to be like, yeah, we can add that in and get you on the schedule, no problem. So yeah, really just have not had to worry about the ultrasound portion of this at all this cycle, which is amazing.
That's awesome. My last question, and this is totally something that I'd leave you to your discretion, right? I'm not going to edit this out, but would you recommend Sama to other people that are able to qualify for a program like this? Would
100%. Yeah. Um, Particularly if you live somewhere like I do where you don't really have many good options, or consistent options. I will say there's like one other place I've found who's opened since we started this journey, who were like, oh yeah, we can absolutely do remote monitoring, no problem. But then when I called them about a cycle, they're like, oh well, I'm a one-man shop and I'm on vacation for the next 2 weeks, and it's like, well, that's just, you have to miss a whole cycle because I mean, guy takes vacation. That's legit. But
totally right.
so like just being able to like know that I'm going to be able to schedule in advance, and I'm on the books and everything's going to work the way it needs to. Such a weight off my mind. Wholeheartedly would recommend this.
Well, like our hearts are so full right now, Hannah. Like this is, it's hard. I know, it's not acceptable for a grown man to weep, but I would weep right now because I literally this is the central part of our mission at Sama, and hearing that we were able to help someone go through care, and hoping that we are able to take millions and millions of people to the same destination as you is something that we want to achieve at Sama. So I really, really appreciate your kind words. And as always, while I have Jess on the call, I'm gonna give a massive shout out to her for making this program the way it is. Thank you
Oh,
so
and this
much.
is exactly why we do it and why we want to help people like this. It's just, I'm so happy with everything you said, Hannah. And during your journey, I had fun with you. We talked, we had, nice conversations, and it's really been such a pleasure. And I'm so glad that you had such an amazing experience. It warms my heart, and I'm just really grateful that everything worked out.
Yeah, and I've such appreciated having you as a dedicated contact. I know you're always gonna respond really fast. You got to work on work-life balance, but do appreciate it. Yeah, it's been probably one of the best experiences in this journey, which I mean, you're aware is little dignity, little grace, and a lot of aggravations.
It is. It is. We recognize that again. Well, thank you so much.